Classic Hollywood celebrities were considered the real bombshells. They were not just beautiful, they were also seductive. Sometimes so seductive that they forget to say no to anybody who tries to approach them. So we are going to talk about the 15 most beautiful Hollywood divas who were so high on libidos that they were always ready to open their zips, even for any random actor. Marilyn Monroe, the icon of seduction and heartbreak. When you think of Hollywood's sex symbol, the first name that pops into your mind is almost always Marilyn Monroe. With her platinum blonde hair, luminous smile, and a presence that exuded both vulnerability and seduction, Marilyn captivated millions. But behind the iconic photographs and timeless films lay a life filled with personal turmoil, endless romantic entanglements, and scandal that still fascinates us decades later. Marilyn's allure was not just her physical beauty. It was her ability to use that beauty as a form of art, a currency in a world where power and charm often went hand in hand. Her alleged liaisons read like a who's who of Hollywood royalty and political figures. Names like President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy have been whispered in hushed tones for years. It wasn't just the powerful men who were drawn to her. Monroe's off-screen life was a revolving door of high-profile relationships, affairs, and rumored trysts. She was married multiple times, and each marriage came with its own headline-grabbing drama, making her life seem almost scripted for the silver screen. People often recount how Marilyn's personal struggles, her bouts with depression, and her very public search for love became intertwined with the scandalous nature of her romances. Her relationships were marked by a blend of passion and tragedy, and despite the endless parties, photos, and late-night rendezvous, she was constantly searching for something more enduring, a love that could perhaps ground the whirlwind of her fast-paced life. In many ways, Marilyn's life remains emblematic of a Hollywood star who was as much a prisoner of her public persona as she was a creator of it. Ava Gardner, the uncompromising beauty with a rebel heart. If Marilyn was Hollywood's eternal siren, then Ava Gardner was its ultimate rebel. With a magnetism that defied convention and a personality that was as fierce as it was captivating, Gardner carved out a niche for herself that went far beyond her sultry looks. Known for her bold presence both on and off the screen, Ava's love life was a roller coaster of high-profile romances, tempestuous affairs, and marriages that often ended as quickly as they began. Ava's personal life was a mix of glamour and grit. She was famously linked with some of the most powerful and influential men of her era. Names like Howard Hughes, Mickey Rooney, and Frank Sinatra regularly made headlines in connection with her. There's a kind of wild romance attached to Ava's story. She wasn't one to settle, nor did she allow the constraints of society to dictate her choices. Her relationships were often as unpredictable as her on-screen roles, with every liaison becoming fodder for gossip columns. Her marriages, too, were part of the public spectacle. Each union carried with it promises of a fairy tale romance, only to unravel under the weight of conflicting ambitions, constant media scrutiny, and personal demons. Ava's willingness to live life on her own terms, even if that meant becoming the subject of scandal, cemented her status as a Hollywood legend, a woman who refused to be tamed by conventional expectations. Lana Turner, the glamorous bombshell with a dark underbelly. Lana Turner's name conjures up images of glitz, glamour, and the dangerous allure of a life lived in the spotlight. Often referred to as the sweater girl early in her career, Turner quickly evolved into one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. But behind the perfectly coiffed hair and dazzling smile was a life marked by intense passion, secret affairs, and a series of relationships that fueled both her success and her downfall. Turner's love life was nothing if not dramatic. Rumored affairs with powerful figures, including mobsters like Johnny Stompanato, added an element of danger to her personal narrative. Her multiple marriages and publicized romantic escapades made her a darling of the tabloids. In a time when the media thrived on scandal, Turner's private life became a public spectacle. Her relationships were often intense, sometimes volatile, and always wrapped in a haze of mystery that only heightened public interest. The story of Lana Turner is also one of a woman who was caught between the demands of a ruthless studio system and her own desires. In many ways, her personal and professional lives were inseparable. Each scandal, each whispered rumor only enhanced her on-screen persona. Turner's legacy is one that reminds us that in Hollywood, the line between a character and the actor playing them is often delightfully blurred. Tallulah Bankhead, the eccentric enchantress who broke all the rules. Tallulah Bankhead was never one to blend into the background. Known as much for her flamboyant personality as for her considerable acting talent, Bankhead became an emblem of unbridled excess in Hollywood. Her lifestyle was one of audacity and defiance, a cocktail of lavish parties, scandalous romances, and unapologetic expressions of sexuality that made her both revered and reviled. Bankhead's love life was equally as dramatic as her public persona. Unlike many of her contemporaries, she did not restrict herself to a single gender when it came to love. Her relationships spanned both men and women, and she flaunted them with a kind of brazen confidence that few dared to emulate. Her rumored affairs with such luminaries as Gary Cooper, and even whispers of romantic liaisons with icons like Marlene Dietrich, contributed to her mythic status. What made Tallulah so fascinating wasn't merely the number of relationships she indulged in, it was the way she did it. In an era when conformity was the norm, Bankhead's defiant self-expression, whether on stage or off, challenged social conventions and redefined what it meant to be a Hollywood star. Her life was a living testament to the idea that scandal could be art, and art could be scandal. Zsa Zsa Gabor, the eternal socialite with a string of marriages. When you speak of extravagance and unapologetic hedonism, Zsa Zsa Gabor's name is hard to miss. With a reputation that was as sparkling as her diamond-encrusted jewelry, Gabor was a fixture in Hollywood's social scene. Known for her numerous marriages and equally prolific romantic escapades, she personified the image of a glamorous socialite whose love life was as much a part of her brand as her on-screen appearances. Zsa Zsa's career might not have been as prolific in film as some of her contemporaries, but her personal life certainly made headlines. Married no fewer than 9 times, she was often in the public eye for her whirlwind romances and the glittering parties she hosted. Her relationships were marked by a mix of charm, wit, and an uncanny ability to reinvent herself after each scandal. Men like Conrad Hilton and Richard Burton, among others, were linked with her, adding layers of intrigue and opulence to her story. Have you seen any girl around you who have been married for 9 times? Well, I never. If you have seen any girl who has done that, please mention her name below. Rita Hayworth, the sensual siren with a turbulent love life. Rita Hayworth remains one of Hollywood's most enduring symbols of glamour and allure. Often remembered for her electrifying dance numbers and dazzling on-screen presence, Hayworth's personal life was equally dramatic. Her multiple marriages and high-profile romances painted the picture of a woman who was constantly in search of love, yet always found herself entangled in controversy. Her romances spanned a wide spectrum, from unions with influential figures like Orson Welles to tempestuous relationships that ended in public scandal. Hayworth's love life was a mirror of her film roles, passionate, tragic, and impossible to forget. She was married 5 times, and each relationship brought its own set of challenges and tabloid headlines. The public watched, almost in morbid fascination, as the glamorous star navigated the treacherous waters of fame and personal fulfillment. Despite the personal heartbreaks and public scrutiny, Rita's magnetic presence on screen never waned. Her life story, rife with passion, scandal, and resilience, remains a quintessential part of Hollywood lore, illustrating how the boundaries between personal life and public persona can become beautifully blurred. Jean Harlow, the original blonde bombshell. In the era of silent films and early talkies, Jean Harlow emerged as the quintessential blonde bombshell. With her striking features and irreverent charm, Harlow quickly became the subject of both adoration and scandal. Her brief but intense career was punctuated by a series of high-profile romances that established her reputation as one of Hollywood's most alluring and unpredictable stars. Harlow's personal life was as dramatic as her on-screen persona. Her relationships, though fewer in number compared to some of her successors, were no less scandalous. Rumors swirled about her affairs with the leading men of the day, actors and directors whose names remain etched in the annals of Hollywood history. Harlow's allure was such that she often found herself at the center of a media frenzy, with every romantic escapade dissected by the press. Her legacy is defined not just by her film career, but by the mythos that grew around her personal life, a reminder of a time when even a fleeting romance could ignite a scandal that resonated for decades. Barbara Payton, the tragic starlet whose love life led to ruin. Barbara Payton's story is one of both glittering promise and heartbreaking downfall. Once a rising star in Hollywood, Payton's beauty and charm made her a darling of the silver screen. Yet behind the glamour lay a series of turbulent relationships and a personal life marred by scandal. Known for her passionate nature and willingness to engage in high-profile romances, Payton's love life became a magnet for controversy. She was involved with a string of influential men in the industry, and her affairs often ended in bitter public disputes. Her relationships were marked by intense passion, rapid-fire romances, and ultimately, a descent into personal and professional chaos. Payton's tragic narrative serves as a cautionary tale, a stark illustration of how a life immersed in scandal and unbridled passion can sometimes lead to a downfall that overshadows even the brightest moments of stardom. Mamie Van Doren, the 1950s, bombshell, unafraid to embrace her sexuality. Mamie Van Doren was a true enfant terrible of the 1950s, a bombshell who embraced her sexuality and reveled in the scandal that often accompanied it. With a career built on her striking looks and provocative roles, Van Doren was equally known for her unapologetic romantic exploits. Throughout her career, she openly admitted to relationships with a wide array of men, from Hollywood heavyweights to rising stars. Her willingness to speak frankly about her affairs, combined with her magnetic on-screen presence, made her a figure who defied conventional norms. Van Doren's personal life was a smorgasbord of parties, secret liaisons, and publicized romances that cemented her reputation as one of Hollywood's most daring divas. Her legacy is one of the empowerment and unapologetic self-expression, a reminder that in an industry that often demanded conformity, some stars chose to blaze their own trail, scandal and all. Jane Mansfield, the flamboyant diva of the silver screen. Few names embody the spirit of scandal in Hollywood quite like Jane Mansfield. With her larger-than-life persona, Mansfield was a woman who lived every day as if it were a stage performance. Her on-screen roles, often featuring her as the ultimate sex symbol, were mirrored by an off-screen life filled with controversy, affairs, and an almost reckless disregard for conventional morality. Mansfield's love life was legendary. She was linked to a multitude of high-profile figures, including political power brokers like Robert F. Kennedy and various Hollywood executives. Each romance, each rumored affair, only added to the mystique that surrounded her, a mystique that was as much about her undeniable charm as it was about the relentless pursuit of scandal. Despite the media frenzy that often accompanied her every move, Mansfield embraced the chaos. She lived boldly, loved fiercely, and left behind a legacy that continues to intrigue and scandalize in equal measure. Elizabeth Taylor, the Queen of Hearts and high-profile marriages. No conversation about Hollywood scandals could be complete without mentioning Elizabeth Taylor. Rising to stardom as a child and transforming into one of the most celebrated actresses of her time, Taylor's career was as glittering as her personal life was tumultuous. Known for her stunning beauty and a string of blockbuster films, Elizabeth Taylor's private life was arguably even more famous than her on-screen work. Elizabeth Taylor's love life was a saga in itself. She was married 8 times to 7 different men, and her romances were continuously splashed across the front pages of tabloids. Her passionate affairs with powerful figures such as Richard Burton, with whom she shared a roller coaster relationship that captivated the world and many others, turned her life into a perennial subject of scandal and fascination. Taylor's personal choices, her openness about love and loss, and her fearless approach to life in the limelight made her both a beloved and controversial figure. Her story is a testament to the power of reinvention and the enduring allure of scandal. Joan Crawford, the fierce icon with rumored affairs. Joan Crawford's reputation in Hollywood was built not only on her commanding screen presence, but also on a series of rumors that painted her as a woman of formidable passion and determination. While her career was marked by numerous accolades and a relentless work ethic, her personal life was no less intense. Over the years, whispers circulated about Crawford's involvement in various clandestine affairs. Though she was often portrayed as the epitome of the determined, independent actress, there were always hints, shared over cocktail parties and in hushed tones at studio gatherings, that Crawford's private life was more complex than her public image suggested. Rumored liaisons with fellow actors, directors, and even studio moguls have been part of her legacy. Despite the controversies, Crawford managed to maintain an aura of mystery and authority, reinforcing the idea that behind every powerful image in Hollywood, there's often a labyrinth of scandal waiting to be uncovered. Mae West, the pioneer of sexual provocation and double entendres. Long before the tabloid scandals of later decades, Mae West was already a name synonymous with sexual liberation and bold defiance of social mores. West wasn't just an actress. She was a cultural phenomenon who turned scandal into an art form. Known for her witty one-liners and a confidence that bordered on the outrageous, Mae West broke down barriers with her unapologetic approach to sexuality. Her career was peppered with innuendo and scandal, and she became famous for openly discussing topics that were considered taboo at the time. Mae's personal life, much like her stage persona, was built on a foundation of audacity and charm. Though much of her personal history is shrouded in the playful mystery of her era, it's clear that West's approach to romance and physicality was revolutionary. Her numerous rumored affairs and flirtations with powerful men not only set her apart from her peers, but also laid the groundwork for future generations of actresses who would dare to be bold in both love and art. Bette Davis, the uncompromising star with a turbulent love life. Bette Davis is often remembered as one of Hollywood's most formidable talents, a woman who could light up a screen with a single glance. Yet beneath the steely exterior lay a private life rife with intensity and scandal. Davis was known for her fierce independence and unapologetic attitude, both on screen and off. Her personal relationships were as dramatic as the roles she played. Davis was linked to numerous high-profile romances and was rumored to have had affairs that defied the strictures of the time. Her multiple relationships and the passionate nature of her affairs only added to the larger-than-life persona that she carefully cultivated. While many remember her for her powerhouse performances in films, Bette Davis's legacy is also marked by the controversies and turbulent love affairs that made her a subject of endless fascination in Hollywood's gossip columns. Debbie Reynolds, the beloved star whose scandal was as human as her smile. Rounding out our list is Debbie Reynolds, a woman whose charm, talent, and all-too-human romantic entanglements made her a favorite in the hearts of many. Reynolds was not just admired for her acting and singing abilities. She was also known for her personal life, which included a fair share of scandal and heartbreak. Her high-profile marriage to Eddie Fisher, which ended in a scandalous split when Fisher left her for another Hollywood star, shocked audiences and was widely covered in the press. Reynolds' story is one of resilience, a reminder that even those who seem to have it all together can experience the ups and downs of a very public love life. Her multiple relationships and the constant media scrutiny she endured did not diminish her warmth or her talent. If anything, they underscored the complexities of living a life in the spotlight, where every personal misstep becomes part of a larger narrative. What do these stories have in common? They remind us that behind every glamorous facade and every dazzling film career, there was a personal life filled with desires, heartbreaks, mistakes, and triumphs. Hollywood's golden era was not only about the craft of acting, it was also about living a life that was as dramatic off-screen as it was on-screen. These actresses weren't just characters in a film. They were real people whose passions often led them into the arms of multiple lovers and whose choices, whether scandalous or misunderstood, helped define an entire era. Their stories are a mix of scandal, seduction, and a refusal to conform to the stifling expectations of their time. They challenged societal norms, and in doing so, they paved the way for future generations to live, love, and sometimes even scandalize in the public eye. When you look back at the narrative spun around these stars, it's clear that the lines between personal identity and public persona were never as distinct as we might like to think. Each scandal, each high-profile relationship, and every tumultuous affair added layers to their public image. The media didn't just report on these events, they celebrated them, turning personal heartbreaks and passionate encounters into legends that still echo in Hollywood's history. Take Marilyn Monroe's bittersweet relationships, for example. Her affairs were never just about physical attraction. They were intertwined with the search for emotional connection in a world where fame and loneliness often went hand in hand. Similarly, Ava Gardner's life was a testament to a woman unafraid to pursue love on her own terms, even if that meant becoming the subject of relentless media scrutiny. And then there's Lana Turner, whose dangerous liaison with figures like Johnny Stompanato gave her life an edge that transcended her film roles, an edge that made her both a victim and a victor in a world of high stakes. Even the more flamboyant figures like Tallulah Bankhead and Zsa Gabor reveled in the notoriety that their love lives afforded them. They turned every affair into a statement, every scandal into a performance art piece that redefined what it meant to be a Hollywood diva. Their unabashed approach to romance challenged the conventions of their time, proving that scandal could be both a personal choice and a public spectacle. And then there are the legends like Rita Hayworth and Jean Harlow, whose stories of passion and heartbreak continue to resonate. Hayworth's turbulent love life was a reminder that even the most glamorous stars can be vulnerable, while Harlow's brief but incendiary career left behind a legacy of both beauty and the fleeting nature of fame. Barbara Payton's tragic descent into obscurity further illustrates the perilous line that separates stardom from downfall, a line often drawn by the very passions that fueled their success. Mamie Van Doren and Jane Mansfield took this a step further, almost daring the world to judge them. Their careers were built on an overt celebration of sexuality that was as much about empowerment as it was about shock value. They weren't just participants in a scandal, they were trendsetters who pushed the envelope of what was acceptable in both film and society. Elizabeth Taylor, with her whirlwind of marriages and passionate affairs, encapsulated the dichotomy of Hollywood itself, a blend of beauty and chaos, brilliance and heartache. Her life story is one of reinvention and resilience, a narrative that continues to captivate audiences with its complexity and raw emotion. Then you have Joan Crawford and Bette Davis, women who, despite the rumors and whispers, managed to forge careers that were as formidable as their personal lives were controversial. Their legacies are testament to the fact that sometimes being unapologetically yourself in an industry built on appearances can be both your greatest strength and your most enduring source of scandal. Finally, Debbie Reynolds reminds us that behind the headlines and the glitter, there were real people whose lives were a constant balancing act between public adoration and private pain. Her story is not just about scandal. It's about the human capacity to endure, to love, and to rise above the tabloid stories that sometimes reduce a person to nothing more than a series of headlines. Reflections on an era defined by passion and provocation. In speaking about these 15 actresses, from Marilyn Monroe to Debbie Reynolds, we're not merely recounting a list of scandalous affairs or multiple marriages. We're delving into a period in history where the boundaries of acceptable behavior were continually being tested, and where the personal lives of public figures became a vital part of their mythos. The way these women navigated their relationships offers a glimpse into an era when Hollywood was both a glamorous escape and a pressure cooker of intense emotions. Their scandals, whether based on fact or amplified by the tabloids, reveal a lot about the cultural attitudes of the time. In many cases, the very same attributes that made them stars, their beauty, their charisma, and their willingness to defy convention, were also the reasons they found themselves at the center of every scandal. Consider how society reacted to the personal choices of these actresses. For many, the headlines were titillating and scandalous, a peek behind the closed doors of a world that seemed too fantastical to be real. Yet, for the actresses themselves, these public judgments were part and parcel of living a life in the spotlight. They were constantly negotiating between the roles they played on screen and the roles they were forced to play off-screen. Their personal lives were not just fodder for gossip. They were intricately linked to their identities as trailblazers who dared to live authentically in a system that often demanded conformity. This narrative of scandal and seduction isn't without its darker nuances. Behind the glitz and glamour were real human beings who sometimes paid a steep price for their personal freedom. Many of these women faced ostracism, loss of privacy, and the relentless pressure of public scrutiny that could be as unforgiving as any harsh studio contract. Their stories, while celebrated in the annals of Hollywood lore, also serve as a reminder of the personal sacrifices that often accompanied fame. Yet even with all the hardships, these actresses left an indelible mark on Hollywood. Their willingness to take risks, both professionally and personally, helped pave the way for future generations of women in the industry. They redefined what it meant to be a star, showing that behind every carefully constructed image was a complex, multifaceted individual capable of love, rebellion, and reinvention. As we reflect on their lives today, we're not just looking back at scandals for the sake of gossip. We're acknowledging a legacy of defiance and resilience. These women challenged the norms of their time, and in doing so, they reshaped the cultural landscape of Hollywood. Their stories continue to inspire debates about freedom, privacy, and the cost of fame. The enduring allure of Hollywood scandals. In closing, the lives of these 15 actresses, Marilyn Monroe, Ava Gardner, Lana Turner, Tallulah Bankhead, Zsa Gabor, Rita Hayworth, Jean Harlow, Barbara Payton, Mamie Van Doren, Jane Mansfield, Elizabeth Taylor, Joan Crawford, Mae West, Bette Davis, and Debbie Reynolds offer us a window into an era where every kiss, every whispered secret, and every headline was a testament to the complexity of living in the public eye. Their stories remind us that behind glamour and glitz, there existed a raw human desire to love, to be desired, and sometimes to live on the edge of scandal. Their scandals and romantic entanglements were not merely tabloid fodder. They were reflections of a time when societal expectations were being challenged at every turn. In celebrating their lives, we celebrate a piece of history that continues to provoke thought about the nature of fame, the cost of living life publicly, and the ways in which personal freedom can both elevate and endanger the very souls of those who dare to shine brightly in an unforgiving spotlight. So, whether you're drawn to the tragic romance of Marilyn Monroe, the rebel spirit of Ava Gardner, or the unapologetic boldness of Tallulah Bankhead, there's no denying that these women helped shape Hollywood into a land of endless fascination and unyielding allure. A place where scandal and seduction went hand in hand, and where every whispered secret was a brushstroke in the grand, ever-evolving portrait of American stardom.